Tujikaze, tujikaze, jikaze. Tujikaze, tujikaze, jikaze. Thank you for joining us for another episode of the African Father in America podcast. I'm excited to be here with you for a special edition of the African Father in America podcast, especially because I'm joined by my brother Bomani X. Bomani, thank you for taking the time to join me, on short notice. I know that, you're extremely busy, and it just means a lot that you've taken the time. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good. I'm just looking for everybody. I know we had a little bit of a time mishaps, but I'm glad to be on here.
No problem.
And, I'm glad you've always been supportive.
No problem. And it's a privilege to be here with you. And for those who are joining us or who will be watching this from Kenya and other parts of Africa, Bomani is a brother that is really humble, but he's a celebrity digital strategist, he's a guitarist, and he's also the app icon for Clubhouse. Clubhouse is a new social media platform that is extremely powerful, and I've spent a lot of time in it, connected with a lot of people globally, and it's just blown my mind how just an app can connect people emotionally, and bring a lot of amazing people together, but also enable amazing things to happen. For example, the Lion King that was done, the performance that was done on Clubhouse. Could you just share with us the story around that and your involvement with that?
Yeah. So I've been on that app for a while, since July, and like very early on, I just kind of got comfortable, using the app and like using it as like an outlet for like my creativity and different ways I can just be authentic with my creative process. And just through the connections that I've been able to make on there, and like the genuine friendships, that kind of all culminated into like in December, like a few of us, let's just end up doing something cool. Let's do this idea of like doing a full production of like a musical on an audio only app.
Right.
So like my one of my close friends, Noelle, it was her idea to kind of like put everything together, and we found this like amazing voice of my guy Chris Boogie, who sounded just like James Earl Jones, and we was like, this is something that like it started off in like fun. And it started off something in like good spirits, just to bring joy and creativity to the platform, but it was just something that was just like super amazing to put off, super impactful. Like we got like a 40+ cast.
Wow.
Of people, of like both first time voice actors, professionals, singing, vocal doubles,
Wow.
a whole PTR crew. And we kind of was just like, hey, we're going to do this production.
Wow.
We did it. We ended up like capping the room cap on Clubhouse. So like over 10,000 people from both shows ended up seeing it.
Wow.
And just the amount of like press and just like how much it shaped like the current culture of Clubhouse after doing it has just been super beautiful to see and experience.
Yeah, man. I wanted to just have this conversation also for you to be able to take us on a journey. I was raised in Manyata in Kisumu, Kenya. In Manyata is one of the roughest neighborhoods in the world. It's a slum, and when you woke up in the morning, for example, myself, by the time I was 8 years old, I was already distributing milk and bread in our neighborhood. I had to work in order for us to survive, and I'm really lucky. I'm 37 years old now in Seattle. I have 3 kids, and most of my peers died long time ago. Some of them are in jail, similar to how a lot of black men, especially here in America, are in jail. So being 8 years old is one of the most memorable moments for me, because it reminded me of how I started evolving as a man, as a human being. And I wanted you to just paint for us a picture of a period between the time when you're 8 to 12 years old, and
Wow.
You know, just paint a picture of a place that you probably can think of around that age, and remember to add some colors and sounds, and and just tell us why that memory comes to you now, considering who you've become.
Mhm. Yeah, I feel like 8 to 12 is like a totally different, Bomani in a lot of ways. Like
Mm,
that was, around the time where, my little sister was born.
mm.
Um, and around that time, like I was primarily raised in like a Nation of Islam household.
Oh wow.
So my dad was a part of the nation. Um, so growing up and like 12 and being a teenager, you that's kind of like the start of like adulthood in in
Right.
in some regards. And so like around that time, like while it was a very joyous moment, just like getting acclimated or introduced firsthand to like some of the principles of like the nation or some of the principles of what manhood is like,
Right.
and now also being like an older brother and like what that means, having
Right.
that responsibility to like not only uh be a man in training but be a provider and a caretaker in training,
Right.
and just looking after like my little sister and her growing up. And around the time like uh it was very important for like um for my family like to like travel and be
Mm,
connected to family. And every year, the way my family reunion used to work is every year we go to like a different state that hosts like a family reunion. And I remember around that time, like this is we had went to Florida around that time, and we did this. We were from New York, and we did this whole like, hey, we're gonna drive to Florida for this year's family union.
mm,
And I don't know, I just remember that because like I felt happier
mm,
as during that time period, like I remember like just vivid moments of me and my little sister just like playing in the hotel, making up, playing with like toys and like going into little play fights and enjoying the beach and enjoying the water
mm,
and enjoying like a lot of outdoor activities that I feel
mm.
like as an adult I don't spend the time intentionally to enjoy.
Right.
And so yeah, so like around like 11, 12, like firstly getting introduced to just like what economic responsibility is. My dad kind of like slowly ingrained, like, hey, you need to be responsible. You need to open up little businesses in middle school selling candy.
Right.
Now I got this like little sister that I'm supposed to be taking care of,
Mm,
and I'm enjoying. I'm playing sports. I'm doing all these things that feel like I'm living an authentic life, even as a kid. And and fast forward to now, like I feel like that's a totally different mindset.
mm.
Something that I still strive to like tap into sometimes these days, so I can just tap into that joyous youth. Um, I'm still working on it.
Right. Right.
Still
Yeah.
working
Me
on it.
too, man. Me too. It's a lifetime of work. It's a lifetime of work, and I applaud you for continuing to keep trying.
Mm.
But then you find that music is also like the thread that connects a lot of things in life. Like myself, before we started this interview, I was just sharing with you that I started, interacting with music long ago. When I was little,
Mm.
my family used to go to the church a lot. Every Sunday morning, I would be one of the first kids to go and clean the church. Then I would play with the instruments. But then one day we went for a performance, and there's a pastor who really laughed at my voice. He made me feel so horrible. So I stopped performing for years. But then I had my kids recently. And beyond that, I've also worked with so many artists. I've worked with artists from over 24 countries in Africa because of the festivals I've been
Mm.
producing for my non-profit organization, and a lot of things. I was a DJ too for like 7 years in Kenya. But
Nice.
music just started permeating out of me recently because I started singing a lot more to my kids. I have three daughters, and I started playing a lot of traditional African music instruments. Also, because I spent a lot of time around artists and kids that were learning how to make music instruments from scratch,
Mm-hmm.
that's part of what my nonprofit does in Kenya. We
Mm-hmm.
we are preserving African culture by teaching kids how to play the guitar traditionally, by bringing them together with elders that play the guitar traditionally,
Yeah.
showing them how to make nyatiti, the music instrument behind me that I also play. And so because I was around them all the time before I came to the US, and whenever I visited, I was just like, if they can do it, I can do it too. And also, if I am going to be the voice of this work, I need to demonstrate it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but for you, it also feels like this is also where you find your magic, and it's also your soul. I've seen your picture, the iconic picture for Clubhouse.
Mm-hmm.
You have your guitar, you also have your Bomani effect. That's your
Mm-hmm.
club, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so let's talk about how you first encountered music and where you think your music is taking you.
Well, so high school, I was in choir or chorus or whatever technical term of the class
Yeah,
was,
yeah.
and um, that was a class that was I kind of chose that, I don't know, randomly, instead of art.
Mm,
And that was kind of like a weird introduction to like music, because it wasn't something that I was like actually interested in, and like I've always shied away from singing. I've always shied
mm,
away from like actually using my voice. If anybody knows me, I'm a
mm,
very like quiet and reserved person,
mm,
and I never fully participated, in chorus and in choir. Um, but I remember, like, towards like my junior year, my dad had like asked me, "Hey, do you want to play an instrument?" And I was like, "Yeah, I think like I do enjoy music, and
mm,
I don't really enjoy like the singing. At least right now, at that point in life, I don't really enjoy singing. So maybe I can like express this creative bug elsewhere." And end up picking up the drums.
mm,
And my little sister ended up picking up the guitar. So I did the drumming thing, and I took lessons, and but for some reason, like, I don't know, I just got really drawn to my little sister's guitar. Like,
mm,
I ended up just like taking it. I ended up just like taking her guitar and like bringing it upstairs and like just
mm,
playing in the living room, or just playing on my bed, or playing on the
mm,
couch.
mm,
And you know, the drums is one of those instruments that you gotta have like the right setup. Like, there's a certain time to play. You can't play certain, it's too
mhm,
loud at certain moments.
mhm,
And the guitar kind of just became like the instrument that fit my vibe, or fit my, my energy. And I don't know, I just got really attached to it really quickly.
mhm,
Was playing it. I started taking lessons. I got connected to like this band in my high school, and then that same chorus class, I ended up doing like a solo performance, like with my guitar, during one of the concerts at the end of the year.
mm,
And that was like that first pivotal moment. Like, like, this music thing is going to be a part of my journey. It's going to be a part of my path in some regards. I don't know what that is yet, but this is going to follow me for the rest of my life in some
yeah,
capacity. And ended up doing that. Like, I ended up going to Howard University. Um, I ended up bringing my talents there, and meeting like my best friend to date the
mm,
first day of school, and we started a band. Um, we were playing all throughout DC. And like my voice, in terms of me being an artist, me being a guitarist, like really started to flourish from there.
mm,
I realized how much, like, how music is like a part of my soul, and if at any regard, like, if any capacity, I needed to express it. Like, I'm not saying I'm the best, and I'm not saying I'm the worst, but there's always been like a draw for me to just like uh not always use my words, but at least express myself through the music I'm making.
Right.
And yeah, that kind of just took me through a journey. I ended up like moving to California after graduation. Ended up just getting more in tune with what it meant to be an artist, more in tune with what it meant to be an actual performer. Started performing a lot,
Mm.
um, and then flash forward to to Clubhouse
Right.
during one of the darkest periods of my life, and the darkest periods of a lot of people's life, just because of the quarantine and the pandemic.
Right.
I truly like started relying on like my guitar and music to like get me through, and then I ended up using Clubhouse as an outlet of that,
Right.
and that's kind of how I just kind of went full force and this music stuff.
Yeah, man. It chooses you. You never choose it. It chooses you. I've heard quite a few legendary musicians speak about that.
Hmm.
Oh man, and when we talk about music too, it just reminds me also about fatherhood.
Hmm.
Um, my father was not a musician, but he was a very devout Christian. He used to be one of the church elders. He's 82 years old right now. He was a polygamist. My mother was the youngest wife. And but my father and the men in the church used to clap, in the African churches, especially the church we were in. We didn't have enough music instruments, so the hands are like a
Hmm.
music instrument. If you have like 20 people clapping at the same time, it's it's like serious music.
Hmm.
Anyway, so he was that kind of musician. I think they would form the band of the church that way. But for me, when I think about him, I never really grew up around him. I never really spent a lot of time with him. But now
Hmm.
I am faced with being a father myself, so I have to learn. And my mother helped me actually become a better father. I learned so much from her, because
Hmm.
of the hardship and the triumphs. We also had a lot of victories. But what made me start this podcast, the African Father in America podcast, was a father, a brother like us, a creative. His name was Philip. He committed suicide in Vancouver, but he was from Kenya, living in Seattle. Then he moved to Vancouver. He was in the U.S. Navy, and we went and sent him off, but it scared the hell out of me. In fact, I came back home, and the same night I told my wife what I want my to be in my will, like how I want things to happen. Uh,
Yeah.
and it also just made me think about his kids too. Like what are they going to think of their father? And that's part of what inspired me to talk more to black men, like
Hmm.
you and me, about fatherhood, and also father figures. There are people who are not fathers, but they're father figures. Like you, you're now a father figure because you're the icon of Clubhouse. So
Hmm.
many people look up to you. And I just wanted you to think about the literal father figure and also yourself as a father figure now.
Hmm.
And just speak to me a little bit about what this means to you. And also, if you want, you can reflect on your father and other father figures in your life.
Um, yeah, that's crazy. I've never put that in perspective, at least in terms of the icon.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, and what that means now moving forward, and because yeah, my father, and has been a huge and tremendous impact in my life. He was just a person that I've always gravitated to as like that image of like who I want to be or what can I
Right.
strive to be. I'm not saying anyone's perfect, uh, but he's always emphasized that like like living your truth. Live in the live for not only for yourself but the support of others. Your fellow man. Fellow black man, and yeah, and that's something that I've just that I realized has been ingrained in me, that there's a sense of truth, and there's a sense of purpose that I try to live my life in. And you know I don't always have the intention to inspire others, but I know that, like, I'm not doing this just for myself.
Right.
And I think that is one thing, that just being able to see my father as an adult, as a peer, as a man, just as I'm a man now, that I realize is, a key factor of fatherhood. That you're not only living for yourself, but you're living for the growth and satisfaction of someone under you, and trying to be that beacon of inspiration to that person, and get them through the good times, get them through the bad times. And a lot of the father figures in my life, whether that's my dad, whether it's my late uncle, um, whether that's the cousins, they all have, like, played a role in, like, we're not trying to be perfect, but we're trying to set an example of, like, this is what a man is, or this is what a man should do. A man should be someone that takes care of the family. A man that should be someone that's secure in his own manhood, and secure in their own identity, uh, and just be that rock, and that the supportive figure for others. And I guess you're right. I mean, it's weird enough, you putting that perspective, that I'm playing that role in Clubhouse.
You
It's not
are,
something that
yeah.
it's not
You know,
something that's intentional,
yeah.
but yeah, that's crazy.
It's so funny when you show up in any rooms that I've been in. It's like a father figure showed up. And when you think about your own household, when your father shows up, if you are jumping on the table, you jump down quickly. Yeah, if your sister was like, she had her legs on the table, she takes them off quickly. She's like, oh, daddy's home. That's how people behave on Clubhouse when you show up.
That's
So
crazy.
there's a certain level of respect that you've earned.
Hmm.
Yeah, you've earned it. And you know I also realized that, actually, about 4 years ago. I don't know if you know Mark Lemo and Ryan Lewis. Mark Lemo and Ryan Lewis, they are
Oh, okay. Yeah,
rappers, yeah,
yeah.
rappers from Seattle. But Owura Runga was their trumpeter, and
Hmm.
he's been a great brother to me. Without him, a lot of the things I'm doing would have not been successful. So I want to give him a shout out. But he's also the person that encouraged me and helped me know that I'm actually a leader and a father
Hmm.
figure, and I'm not just an ordinary person anymore. And for somebody to actually educate you on that, it's it takes a lot of courage. It takes a lot of courage. But I wanted us to move a little bit further and look at Africa. Africa has like 2.7 billion people now, and it's the youngest continent globally.
Hmm.
Africa has like 30% of the world resources. It's the richest continent in the world. But currently, we have a problem in Ethiopia, especially in Tigray,
Hmm.
um, where today I was in a clubhouse conversation where I learned that there's a genocide going on. And I wanted just to ask you to share with me some of your thoughts around this. Have you heard about it? And specifically, I grew up in Kenya, and I was in Kenya during the post-election violence in 2008. The 2007 elections in Kenya were disputed. And
Hmm.
so I saw youths, being the ones who are killing one another. And in Tigray, also youths are the ones who are in the army, and they are the ones who are being used to kill the population. And because you are a father figure, youths will listen to you. When word will spread that Bomani was having a conversation with Simon, people will say, what did he say about what's going on in Tigray? And the young people there will respect your perspective. So I just wanted you to speak to them. Speak to young
Hmm.
people in Africa and speak to young people in Tigray give them some inspiration.
Yeah, to that situation, that was something that I also recently got put on notice. I had a room, similar conversational stylist, this, and a young lady came up on the stage, and you know, I was like, hey, can you give me space to speak about this situation? And I was like, yeah, of course. And then she told me what was going on, and I think that is like a testament to one of the solutions that, like, that can happen on our part. There are plenty of people with like knowledge and understanding and actual, you know valuable perspective about certain things that go on ground level, and especially in Africa or in spaces that we may not be privy to because of privilege or whatever. And like, being intentional about giving people voices, that's one thing that I will say that I'm trying to do more on my part, and it would empower people to do their part, to use their platforms to just give people voices that actually have a good understanding, and to speak to the youth, and just knowing how many movements, how the culture, how power dynamics shift when we as a collective come together and share our voice and share our story. There's this dynamic that the world is run by these old paradigms and these manipulative and heinous systems that cause oppression and cause harm and cause situations like this, genocide. And I think that, like, even for me as a young kid in America, and still getting comfortable knowing that we have the power, we have the voice, we have the opportunity to galvanize change, we have the opportunity to push the bar, whether that's through like your creative outlets and inspiring others, or whether that's through your voice, through the impact you can make when we just come together. And when you I think when you live with purpose, and knowing that like your purpose and values is that everybody can live a happy and healthy and successful life without harm of failure, without harm of not making it another day, without harm of like just being stuck. That like, when we all live in our truth, other people get inspired and other people feel empowered to make change. And I think that's something that I would love to say. And if there's something that I can do on my part or with my privilege to help in any capacity, like, I would be super down and open to give anyone a voice. Um, and yeah, I think.
Yeah, man. Thank you. Thank you. I just wanted to listen to you, and also I want to let you know that the designer of the Africa Union flag lives here in Seattle. He is from Ethiopia, and I talked to him today. He's an activist as well, and he joined Clubhouse today. I invited him, and I would love, if possible, to do a room with you and him, and just for him to talk about his art, and also about the Tigray issue. And I wanted to just mention that now before I forget, but I would love for us to do something together, if possible, in the next few days. But now I wanted you to just ask me any question that you might have, and also share with those who are joining us how they can stay connected with you.
Um, well, I guess my question for you, like, like, in what ways do you feel like, um, you're putting efforts in and just making sure you're living a more like intentional and passion filled life? And also, in what ways can I help you in,
Yeah.
in the small way of value that I can maybe bring, like, if that's music lessons, if that's like having these calls and jamming out, like, like,
Yeah.
I know I can't offer much, but I just want to make sure that that you have a space to ask. If
Yeah.
you anything you may need from me, I'll try. And
Man,
yeah, and what
I want
and
to
what to
answer
tell the
that
people.
before you
Okay,
share how
okay.
people can stay connected with you. First, I want those who are watching to know that you're a good guy, you're a great human being, and I didn't appreciate how great I was until people started telling me. So I want you to know that you are a good man. Second is that what you did today is like, if you could not do anything else for me or for One Vibe Africa, my non-profit organization, I would be fine with it. But if you're willing to do something, every year I fill up a container with used music instruments and I send it to Kenya and also Uganda, you know. So I'm creating 2 hubs where we use music to replace weapons. You know, we basically, in Kenya, we have a space that my mother created in 1997 and I'm running it now, you know. It used to be an orphanage, but now it's a creative hub. So we are adding a tech component right now. But if you walk in the space there, you'll find a recording studio. So you can literally collaborate with artists in Kenya right now if you wanted, because we have the recording studio, we have a film production studio, and all of this we built with money from events that I have been producing in Seattle, you know. And that's how I also connected with people like Macklemore and Ryan Lewis, Owora Runga, Blitz the Ambassador, Sauti Sol from Kenya, all of the major artists, even Samini from Ghana, Rocky Dauni, they've all traveled to Seattle and they've also gone to Kisumu, Kenya to support, you know. But where I know that we could work together long term, because I also perform occasionally in Clubhouse. We can over time mobilize and get instruments donated. Then we can send it to Africa together, and we can do that, you know, this year, a little bit next year, slowly by slowly. I think it would be fun to do that.
Definitely, yeah, I like that.
Yeah, because there are musicians that I knew before I moved here to the US in 2010, and now their guitars are still being used, and they still see pictures of their guitars being used by youths and kids after like 15 years. Music instruments live a long time, but they also create a lifeline for people, you know. You know, a lot of artists in Kenya and especially Kisumu are thriving because of the work we are doing with One Vibe Africa, you know. And I've been doing this work and also working full time. Even right now, I work full time and I run my non-profit and I do my side hustle so that even when I don't get grants for my non-profit, I'm still paying everyone who works for One Vibe in Kenya, you know. So it's been a lot of work, and I'm hoping to not be doing all of that and just focus on this podcast and the non-profit work, and also, you know, helping young men, young fathers, like coaching young fathers, especially black men, for us to become pillars of our community, because our community, both in Kenya and also here in the diaspora, is being broken because the pillars are being taken out, you know. And so, you know, because I feel that I've survived a lot of tragedies, I just want to be able to share that knowledge while I still can, you know. So those are some of the things I'm passionate about. So whenever you're hosting rooms, if you want to bring me there, you know, as a moderator, just to support, to share ideas, I'm available anytime.
No, 100%. I got you.
Yeah, I'm available anytime.
Sure.
Yeah, man. I just want you to know I'm grateful. I know we've gone beyond time. There are a few people who are watching. I just want to let you all know that it's been great and we appreciate you being here with us. But we have to end our conversation for today. And, you know, Bomani, could you please let people know how they can stay in touch with you?
Yeah. So on all socials right now, it's I am Bomani X. That's on Instagram. That's on Clubhouse. That's on Twitter. That's on TikTok. I have a phone number that's in my bio on most of those platforms, in which I'm like keeping track of my audience, and like also I'm like sending snippets of the music that I'm going to be releasing soon. So that's a good way. But other than that, yeah, you catch me in these digital streets.
Thank you so much. And thank you again for joining us for this special edition of the African Father in America podcast. It's episode number 50. And
Nice.
yeah, 50. And
Nice.
today we talked about Bomani's story. We talked about his experience as a 8 to 12-year-old. We talked about fatherhood. We talked about Tigray, and we will be holding a clubhouse room very soon to show support and to invite Yadi Bojia, who is the designer of the Africa Union flag, to also help us give this situation a voice, especially in Clubhouse. We want to bring someone who is legitimate, who is known globally as an activist for Ethiopians here in the diaspora, and he already agreed. So thank you again, Yadi. But with that, we just want you all to know that we are grateful, and have a nice evening.
No, I'm super grateful, and we should do this again for sure.
We will. Thank you so much. Peace. Thank you.
Father in America. Tujikaze, jika.